This episode is brought to you by pastasworld.com, where you can find jigsaw puzzles, coffee and tea mugs, canvas and poster prints, iPhone cases, and more. You can even order custom items with your own pictures. Go to pastasworld.com or the Pastas World shop on Etsy to learn more.
You're listening to I Love This TV Show, The Golden Girls.
Hi, and welcome to the I Love This TV Show podcast. I'm your host, Noelle from pastasworld.com. Each season of this podcast will contain a TV show in full. This means the length of the season depends on the length of the TV show. The first season is, of course, The Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls, Season 1, Episode 6, on Golden Girls. Blanche comes in the kitchen a wreck. Dorothy takes a jab at her and tells her to admit she has cellulite. Dorothy: Blanche, we go through this every morning. Now admit it, you have cellulite. Blanche: I am not talking about cellulite, which I don't have. It turns out her daughter Janet and her husband are having marital issues. They're going to Hawaii to have a second honeymoon. However, Blanche is still upset. Rose: Why are you upset? Sophia: Don't you listen? She has cellulite. Blanche: Those are dimples. Sophia: Dimples are on these cheeks. Blanche tells them that while Janet and her husband are in Hawaii for 2 weeks, her 14-year-old grandson is going to be there with them. Dorothy isn't happy, saying it's hard enough to study with an 80-year-old in the house. Blanche doesn't know what they would do to entertain him. It's now the day of David's arrival. Sophia doesn't want to share with Dorothy because she snores. Rose made a huge after-school snack for David. Blanche rushes in upset as David wasn't on the plane. Dorothy tries to calm her. However, Blanche has an answer for each thing that she asks. Finally, the doorbell rings, and an officer has brought David. He hid in the bathroom on the airplane and wound up in the Bahamas. Blanche is thrilled to see him. She then thanks the officer by making a pass at him. Everyone gets introduced to David. Rose tries to talk to him, and he makes a joke at her expense. She didn't notice or realize. He breezes out the door, and Blanche is not amused. Sophia finds his behavior appalling and tells Blanche he needs to be corrected. Blanche: But then what can I expect? His father's a Yankee. I guess I should have given him some money. Sophia: You should have given him a smack. Blanche: I don't believe in hitting children. Sophia: Personally, I like to lay into a kid with a melon ball. It's got a nice weight, good balance in the hand, and it's portable. Rose tells a story about how she was punished when she was a kid. They had to milk Alice. Alice had to sit on a stool to be milked due to a nasty accident. Dorothy: Rose, save the story. Tell it to David when he comes back. That can be his punishment. After this, the three run from the room as fast as they can to get away from Rose. That night in Dorothy's room, Sophia goes through her bedtime ritual, and it drives Dorothy crazy. Dorothy: Look, I haven't studied since David arrived. My test is in 2 weeks, and I do not want to blow it. Sophia: You'll pass. Dorothy: I don't want to pass. I want an A. Sophia: You're the same as you were in grade school. A's. You always had to get an A. Your brother thought a book was to sit on. You always had to get an A. Sophia finally goes to bed while Dorothy continues studying. Sophia then turns the tables on her. Now Dorothy's pencil is making too much noise and preventing her from sleeping. Dorothy gives up and goes to bed. Sophia tells Dorothy that tomorrow she will have a cold. Once in bed, Dorothy wants to know what that smell is. Sophia has a whole list of things she's applied to herself. Dorothy: What's that smell? Sophia: I don't smell anything. Dorothy. Are you wearing something? Sophia. A little Bengay on my knees. A little Vicks on my chest. A little deep heat on my neck. Dorothy. What are you trying to do? Pickle yourself so you'll live to be 100? Sophia. Fine, I'll wipe it off. Tomorrow, I'll be in a wheelchair. Dorothy finally gets comfortable, but Sophia starts making all kinds of noises. She's got a post-nasal drip and is drowning in phlegm. Dorothy tells a story about when she was a kid and slept with Sophia. Usually it was the bear dream. It was eating her. Sophia tells her how polite she was when she would wake her up. They finally make up and say goodnight. They just close their eyes as suddenly music blares from the living room, kind of like a sonic boom. Blanche is the first to arrive in the living room. She turns off the music angrily as Dorothy, Rose, and Blanche arrive. David makes a joke about life being too short for them. He doesn't have his friends leave when he's asked, so Dorothy takes over and kicks them out. Dorothy then tells David to clean up the mess and to go to bed. David. This really stinks. What am I supposed to do for the next 2 weeks? Just sit around and listen to your arteries harden? Blanche. You stop that. Dorothy. You know something? I am having a real problem with your attitude. David. Oh, really? Well, you can just kiss my attitude. Sophia smacks him. Dorothy. Ma! Sophia. Well, you wouldn't let me get the melon baller, so I improvised. Blanche. Is that all you Italians know how to do? Scream and hit? Sophia. No. We also know how to make love and sing opera. Rose goes back to bed while Blanche goes out to the lanai to check on David. He just wants to go home. Blanche tells him that no one's there, and he tells her that's how it always is. All his parents do is fight and ignore him. He gets worked up and emotional and tells her she doesn't have to take care of him. He knows he's a burden. And then he storms off. The next day, the ladies make a chore list for David to do. Blanche. This is too much. I can't ask him to do this. Dorothy. Of course you can. Rose. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Dorothy. God, I wish I'd said that. Dorothy explains that David hasn't had any structure in his life, and that having some things to be responsible for can help build his self-esteem. Rose tells about her chores on the farm. Dorothy then tells the list of chores she had to do. Sophia starts to talk about Sicily, and Dorothy warns her never to bring up Sicily. Later that night, Dorothy finds David trying to run away. She challenges him for running away. Dorothy. So you're just going to wimp out, huh? David. I'm not wimping out. Dorothy. What do you call this? David. Why should I stay here when I got all this crappy stuff to do and no one likes me anyway? Dorothy. First of all, buddy boy, life is full of crappy stuff to do. It's everywhere, so you better get used to it. The president has crappy stuff to do. Second of all, your grandmother happens to like you. My mother likes you. She doesn't hit anyone unless she really cares. Take it from me. And I happen to like you. David. My life stinks. Dorothy. I know. Dorothy gives a bit of a speech and gets through to David. She tells him that once he gets through this, he'll feel a lot better. He comments about how he can't just come there whenever, and Dorothy tells him, yes, you can just come here whenever. He looks very surprised. They decide to renegotiate vacuuming duties. Dorothy gets him to go in the kitchen with her so she can fix him something to eat. Another evening out on the lanai, and everyone is celebrating. Dorothy got an A on her French test. Blanche. I want to propose a toast to Dorothy Zbornak, who got an A in French class, proving that you can teach an old dog new tricks. Sophia. And if anyone knows about tricks, Dorothy. Ma! Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, or should I say, merci beaucoup, mes amis. Rose. Oh my, that was impressive. Sophia. Jane Goodall once taught an ape to rumba. That's impressive. Dorothy also congratulates David on his progress. He surprises all of them by asking if he could live there full time. He thinks they'll be thrilled to be rid of him, his parents, that is. Sophia follows him to the kitchen and tells Blanche to call his mother. Blanche calls Janet. She phrases the call a bit differently than they expected. She then calls them out for ignoring David, Janet, and her husband. She gives them an ultimatum on David's treatment. The two praise her on the bluff, Rose and Dorothy. But Blanche tells them she was serious about raising David. She still feels a lot of guilt about how she raised Janet. It's now another day, and David is leaving for the airport. They say their goodbyes. Blanche tells him to give his parents a chance. Dorothy tells him to as well, but also gives him the option of coming back if things get too much. Blanche is clearly touched. He heads to the cab. Blanche thanks Dorothy for what she said. Sophia and Dorothy argue about who snores worse. And we'll be right back after a short break.
Favorite quotes. Dorothy. Blanche, we go through this every morning. Now admit it, you have cellulite. Dorothy. Ma, what are you doing? I can't study with the noise. Sophia. Fine, I'll stop breathing. Dorothy. What is this? The curse of the Catwoman? Sophia. I'm a mother. I know these things. Blanche. Is that all you Italians know how to do is scream and hit? Sophia. No, we also know how to make love and sing opera. Rose. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Dorothy. God, I wish I'd said that. Dorothy. What did you people do? Run a farm for handicapped animals? Rose. Did they have chores in Sicily? Sophia. Are you kidding? They invented chores in Sicily. Crossing the street without getting pregnant was a chore in Sicily. Dorothy. My mother really likes you. She doesn't hit anyone unless she cares. Take it from me. Blanche. All right, now, attention everyone. I want to propose a toast to Dorothy, who got an A in her French class, proving that you can teach an old dog new tricks. Sophia. And if anyone knows about tricks. Sophia. Jane Goodall once taught an ape to rumba. That's impressive. Dorothy. Ma, I do not snore. Sophia. Please, I had to turn you away from the window so you wouldn't inhale the drapes.
Some fun facts from this episode. Blanche has cellulites, but she won't admit it. Blanche's daughter and her husband are having trouble in their marriage and their relationship. Janet has a 14-year-old named David, and that's also Blanche's grandson. David stowed away in the bathroom on a plane to go to the Bahamas. Rose tells her second story, but no mention of back in St. Olaf yet. This story is about Alice the cow. Dorothy's French test is in 2 weeks, and she needs to study as she wants an A. Sophia uses Bengay, Vicks, and Deep Heat when she goes to bed, all in different areas. David sneaks out and brings friends back to party at 2 a.m. Per Sophia, in addition to screaming and hitting, Italians also know how to make love and sing opera. David admits he's upset to Blanche and that he's used to taking care of himself because his parents are always too busy fighting to take care of him. The girls give him a list of chores so he has some responsibility. David tries to run away, but Dorothy stops him. David shocks the four by announcing that he'd like to live with them permanently. And Blanche calls Janet out about it, and she gets angry and sends for David. In this episode, there's two things that really get touched on. One, how issues between in a marriage between husband and wife, parents, spouses, partners, how it affects the kids in a relationship. And in this case, it was just one kid. But at the same time, it had a great effect on him. He didn't think anyone cared, so he didn't care. And I think if he hadn't wound up going and staying with the girls for a couple of weeks, that he would still be in this downward spiral. I used to be a teacher, so I've seen this kind of thing in different ways. We had one student where he was acting out and lighting fires, and that was because his mom had died and his dad completely just fell into his work and completely ignored him, and he just felt completely abandoned, and he was doing whatever he could to get attention in any way that he could. And I'm really glad that we were able to bring a resolution to that and help fix that situation, at least in some way, so that he felt close to his dad again and that he wasn't lighting fires and putting himself and others in danger anymore. And the other issue that it touched upon, it really kind of was touched upon a lot by Blanche in this episode, is the fact that she has a lot of regret in how she raised her kids. I think it was mentioned in an episode or two prior to this, but this is the one where she actually decided on an action to take to fix that. And she wanted to take David and raise him herself for the rest of his time as a minor to try and make up for the mistakes that she made with Janet. And throughout the course of the series, I believe we hear about 5 different kids, and we hear a different take on different stories throughout the series about the different kids. But the one thing that we do always hear from Blanche is that she has so many regrets about how she raised the kids that she had. Because she mentions in some episodes that she had a nanny, and so they were like closer to the nanny than they were to her in some episodes, and how she would really just like to go back and do it over and do it differently in a way that she didn't have regrets about. And I think that's a real truism for a lot of us, because I think for most people there's always something we would like to go back and do in a different way, whether it's something small, whether it's something big, but something that always kind of bothers us, sits in the back of our mind, never totally goes away. But what Blanche does realize is she can make it right. She may not be able to fix the past mistakes, but she can improve and make the effort to improve her relationship with Janet, which she does do later in the series, as all of us are addicted to the Golden Girls know.
It's been great reliving this episode with you. Please check out the podcast website, anchor.fm/I love this TV show, no spaces. You'll be able to see the show notes and also support this podcast. To check out everything I'm up to and nerding about, head over to pastasworld.com. You'll also find additional content there. Thanks for listening, and stay golden.